Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. This is DGI-371 Daily Global Insights, and I'm joined by my co-host Sridhar Tityalaji as we look at some very critical developments across the world. Here is our co-host Sridhar Tityalaji. Sridharji, namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel.
Namaskar, good morning to everybody, and good evening if you happen to be in India, or late good evening if you happen to be in Australia, getting ready for the T20 World Cup match tomorrow.
Sir, today we'll first look at the markets because there is a fair amount of uncertainty that has crept in. Recession words are becoming louder now, and there is a midterm elections, and everything seems to be, tuned to give their own side the maximum effect for the midterms. Let's first take a look at markets. Sridharji, I'm hearing now that the demand for crude is collapsing, and therefore the crude prices are falling. But is the market now saying we are already in recession, if not just about to enter into recession?
I think that we are right across the world. The inflation numbers are rising at an alarming rate. 7.3% in Australia, 5.3 to 5.3% in Singapore. Most of the European nations are now about 10%, almost on the 10%. With some predicting it to rise up to 14 to 14.5%. These are inflation numbers unheard of. Having said that, some of the banks are reporting positive earnings, but generally the prices are shooting up across all aspects and all segments, from energy to the food prices. So obviously this means the rising rates puts pressure on the wallet, and now the voices of recession are going louder and louder. This is one of the reasons why, as you rightly pointed out, that there is the futures, December futures price for West Texas crude is now $84. The Brent is also dipping to $93. So there's no longer this price target of 100 to 120 that people were aspiring, because the demand is collapsing. Chinese GDP has also reported lower numbers. There's one more alarming news that's coming from Japan, which is the world's third largest economy, is that yen could go to 170. Okay, it went past 150 again. The Bank of Japan intervened, and Yellen made a polite statement, which is to say, we're not going to ask, or we're not going to tell what Japan needs to do, but what it needs to do, it will do. So all these are indications. The US dollar, unfortunately, is rising, which is putting pressure on exports of many of these countries. And that only means that there is contraction of GDP and moving towards a recession situation, as we predicted, and which people didn't accept, but we are looking at that situation, Sriji.
Yes, viewers, please like this video because there is some really stunning stuff coming ahead of in the next few minutes, and I would like everybody to understand the implications of some of these moves. And the next topic we're going to talk about is United Kingdom. Rishi Sunak, some surprise appointments. Looks like he has inherited a dysfunctional democracy. Where do you think UK is headed, sir? Because I'm a little concerned that he hasn't really changed much. Except for the PM change, the cabinet looks pretty much the same.
Well, I think I wish Rishi well. Why I wish Rishi well? Well, look, he at least went through the tough phase of COVID, managed under Boris Johnson. The furloughs were very well managed. The COVID programs were very well implemented, notwithstanding the fact all kinds of allegations and accusations that he is not close to the roots and doesn't understand people's problems, etc. So my view is that it probably is, rather than again upset the apple cart. First you had Boris Johnson cabinet, then you had the Liz Truss cabinet. Now you come in and change. So he says, no, let me preserve the status quo. Let me put some trust, because there's been some changes. Jeremy Hunt retains his treasury, and the Home Secretary, much criticized Home Secretary, retains her role. He's kept the defense and foreign affairs roles as well in the same with the same people. So what he's saying is, let's work together. So now let me provide the leadership from an economic and from a strategic point of view. So I'm kind of turning off all the noises and giving him 90 days to demonstrate. If he stays 90 days, if he stays 90 days, then he's going to get it done and he'll move his way forward. He's a very fiscally prudent fellow, so he understands what he needs to do. So that's my view, Sriji.
Thank you very much, sir. And now let's take a look at the Russian front. Russia has notified that it is going to carry out nuclear drills, and Russia makes a case in the UNSC saying that Ukraine is preparing a dirty bomb, and Ukraine says no way. So now, how can, I mean, US has already chosen a side. Who is going to play the referee in all this, Sridharji? I'm a little concerned for the whole world.
There's no referee in United Nations. P5 is P3 plus 1 plus 1. Okay, that's generally how the P5 nations work. Rest of the nations sit and watch the fun, while the P3 plus 1 play the dongle. So therefore, it's Russia is one of the P5 members. So it acts as a 1. So it has unilateral power to veto anything. So now let me get back to two important points here. One, as part of the START, strategic arm reduction treaty.
Right.
Treaty. They have obligations to report to each other what exactly they are doing. So they have reported that to United States, we are now going to conduct our nuclear drills around the border, and we are making you aware. So the West generally considers that as positive because it's not going to preempt any action as a result from his borders, from within his borders by virtue of conducting this exercise. But the fact that it is being conducted is sending a message to the world in terms of the deterrence mechanisms that he is putting in place. This rumor that we are talking about, the dirty bomb, apparently emanates from the Zaporizhzhia Russian Ukrainian nuclear plant. Apparently, the people inside have said there's been some, radioactive material missing, and that prompted Russia to say, "Hey, it's probable that Ukraine is preparing a dirty bomb to launch in its own soil." This is the word. This is the UNSC kind of the verbiage. So, for which West has basically naturally flatly denied, and Ukraine has denied this. But Russia is also a smart nation, so they're not just going to make something up for the sake of making it up. I think we are in for some troubled times based on all the sabotages that we have seen in this war, Sriji.
And we have seen in the past that Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant has changed hands a couple of times, and now I think it is with the Ukrainians. So there is always, this we did it, or no, we didn't. Also looks like Russia is digging in some parts of the Kherson region, Sridharji.
It is, and I think that the Russian army has dug in. Contrary to some people's views, it is the Ukrainian rebels who are sympathetic to joining hands with Russia, who are telling the residents of Kherson to vacate and move to a safer place because the war could get ugly. This is where it is not from the Ukrainian side. This thing is coming. This is clearly the message is coming from the rebels who are originally Ukrainians but now allying with the Russians. And Kherson is under the Kharkiv and Kherson, and the two Donetsk provinces are now under the Russian leadership. So they take messages and orders from there. So it looks like we are in for another battle within that specific region. What tools and techniques are going to be used, it remains to be seen. Very interesting situation there as well.
And with with Norway reporting drones flying across its land, now Germany is looking to Israel to get some drones to defend itself. So now I'm seeing one by one, one country after the other, they're all trying to raise their own arm, defense fortifications and so on and so forth. So again, we are going to have some more developments from the US that will give you a better idea of what's going on there. Sridharji, Israel now is beginning to play a very active part.
Israel is the most sophisticated technology is with Israel. Okay, probably three countries: Israel, France, and United States. So naturally, Israel on nuclear deterrence, missile shields, drone technology, drone deterrence mechanisms, drone shields, etc., all emanate from Israel. So, what does Germany do? Reach out to Israel and say, okay, we now need infrastructure to support all our energy facilities. Remember, Germany is an industrialized nation. It requires huge amount of energy to power its industrial machinery. No different to some of the Scandinavian nations and probably some of the French and so on. So it's an industrialized nation and requires, and they saw what Russia did to Ukraine. So there is a fear that is creeping in whether this could escalate rapidly and not to be caught flat-footed, in the last minute.
Sir, quickly, Sweden and Finland are still being denied entry into NATO by two nations. We know one of them is Turkey. They put very stiff terms, but I thought the Scandinavian countries agreed to that. So, what is which is the other country, sir, and what is the problem now?
Hungary has not got it done through its parliament. Each of these countries, each of the NATO countries have to formally get approval, ratify it in the parliament. Hungary says it will get it done and it's a process, but I don't know why they're delaying. Why they're delaying, at least from a political point of view, Hungary is to the right. Italy is now moving to the right. Sweden is moving to the right. So more of them are, shedding their center or left image. So Hungary is saying, I don't agree with some of these policies that the EU is trying to do as far as the Russian situation is concerned. And the last thing that we want is war reaching our footstep by acceding to Sweden and Finland. So, but Finland says that eventually Hungary will pass it. As far as Turkey is concerned, I think they will do some workaround because Turkey is not going to do it. Though there's discussion around not naming the Peshmergas as terrorists or some of those guys who are taken shelter in one of I think Sweden probably, they're not going to be sent back to Turkey for prosecution. So I think Turkey will remain a ticklish point for some time, but I think United States may do some workaround.
So now let's take a look at United States. A group of progressives led by Pramila Jayapal, Ilhan Omar, we know the squad. These people appear to have written a letter which they claimed was signed by 100 people in the progressives group. Something really went wrong. And now they have withdrawn that letter. For those of us who are finding this out for the first time, so that you can walk us through what happened. This appears to have been some, I don't want to use the word forgery. How did this happen, sir?
Well, first and foremost, many of the progressive programs could be cut and impacted as a result of what is happening in Russia and Ukraine. So there was this group of people or the thinkers who felt it's time, if our agenda has to get through, we don't care about what's happening in other part of the world. Agenda has to get through, got to get this war to stop. Otherwise, the whole thing is going to go haywire. It's also going to put pressure on winning the elections, which is not too far away. November 8th is the elections. So if they lose power, it's over. So many programs of these progressives are right on the front and center, they could be jarred. So this was the secret, and they did not inform many members of the Democratic Party, and this letter turned up, and this would have been a disaster, adding to the other disasters the Democratic Party have walked themselves into, and which resulted in, hasty pullback of this letter, Shriji.
Now, the other challenge that the Democrats have is that now Israel has supplied proof to United States that it was indeed the Iranians who supplied the drones to Russia. I mean, people have been making the claims, but now the proof has been supplied. This should make the case of Iran sanctions being lifted that much harder. But right now, what is the United States focused on? Because what I'm afraid is Biden going to do something rash to try and somehow resurrect back the program, the government before the midterm? What are your thoughts there, sir?
Well, my thoughts are, it's very interesting. They're trying to push. This is one of the agenda items of the progressives. You can at least think of a couple of names within the progressive groups who would be supporting this. And what did the Iranians do? Iranians came very quickly back and said, oh, we'll be extremely disappointed and surprised if our drones were in fact used by the Russians. So first and foremost, Russians denied that they had Iranian drones. Now Iranians come back and say, issue a statement, we will be very disappointed and surprised if United States, if Russia had used, we believe Russia had used our drones in the Ukrainian war. So Israel provides the proof, Iranian response, and Iran wants this deal. So they're trying to play both sides of the coin. If they had just kept quiet, at least to many people sitting on the sidelines, would have said, it's just another allegation coming from the Russian side. But Iran probably jumped the gun and made the statement. So therefore, it's very interesting that what is going on, and the truth is inadvertently coming out as a result of a series of actions.
Now, 73 lawsuits on election fraud, something related to election in 20 states. The Republicans have been very busy filing these lawsuits. Do you think these will change anything for the midterm elections, or is it just to try and keep that in the front burner that the 2020 elections were stolen?
It is, if we have to pick up Xi Jinping's, it's a wolf warrior strategy for the elections, right? Which is be aggressive, assertive, and confrontational with both the state decision makers as well as the legal cell within the states. Obviously, I think Shiji, I forget the book. Who turned my state purple? Okay.
Who painted my?
Who painted my? Yeah. Please read the book. What are the things? Observers. Their observer status were questioned. That's number one. Number two, illegal ballots stamped illegally or marked differently, which were declined in the voting machines. They were allowed to pass through and to be counted, is number two. And number three, procedural issues during the election counting process. So all these things, you go back, they have, it's like in a Republican Party, horse has left the stable and you're trying to bolt the door. So this is what they're trying to do here ahead of the elections. And by the way, 7.3 million people have already cast their votes via postal ballots. So it remains to be seen how these things take shape, but they have come to the front and center to put this issue in the front burner rather than in the back burner, warning the Democrats that, there is don't attempt anything that you did in 2020.
Now, the West has warned North Korea that if it tests any nuclear missiles, it will have a devastating response back. We have to wait and see what that would be. Sir, my big fear and my big doubt is many people also who come on my show say this, is that it's not Iranian drones or North Korean missiles. It is all Chinese technology. So these are all like, trying to, I want to test this technology, you do this. I want to test this technology, do this. Now, where this is going to stop, sir? This fellow has been doing this for a long time. Only Trump appears to have kept him in check.
Well, I think he is a surrogate for both China. Now he's a surrogate for Russia. As far as my understanding is, most of his nuclear technology, you can correct me, Sriji, you are an expert in this domain. Most of the nuclear technology to North Korea came from China. In fact, most of the nuclear technology that seems to have gone to Pakistan, many believe has gone through North Korea into Pakistan. So I think, therefore, they have given him the toys. They have given him the ballistic missiles toys. So now what can he do? He has to demonstrate to the world. He has to play with his toys. So I think it's a distraction tactics. You remember again, people ask the question, what is this wolf warrior strategy? Bring all your allies up and rattle the cage enough. So North Korea is going to rattle that specific, cage, using this nuclear. It brings South Korea. It brings United States, it brings Japan into the equation. Very key members when you actually look at the Taiwan Strait and the Korean Peninsula, stuck between Japan and China on the other side with these two nations. It's a very kind of strategic flashpoint, and none other than our North Korean man, the best suited for creating the distraction strategy.
And it looks like Indonesia is not going to prevent Putin from attending the G20 conference. So that will be an interesting conference there. I think Putin will be coming face to face with Biden. In what state, we don't know. And it's going to be very interesting. So this will be our last item, sir. And let's get your thoughts on this, and then we'll call it a wrap.
Well, I think firstly, Biden has said he will not meet Xi at the summit, and Biden has also stated that he will not meet Putin at the summit. Okay, Putin said he expects an invitation. He expects to attend this particular meet. So therefore, what do we expect? I think then you have the Saudi Arabian, the King of Saudi Arabia, with whom Biden again has antagonism. Is traveling to India and meeting with Prime Minister Modi one day before, and then they probably are traveling together. You know, when I say travel, not on the same plane, probably traveling in their respective aircraft, attending the summit. So we are expecting a mini United Nations and a divided fight back at the G20, where these global powers are trying to form their own alliances and probably break G20. Okay, the precursor to that was in ASEAN meet, when they could not issue a joint statement, which is meant to be focused on economic aspects, right? They could not issue because Vladimir Putin and Russia was the big Godzilla in the room. So we may see, in my view, that some attempted misalignment or breakage in the G20 and saying, okay, you're not talking to us, you're not doing this, we are forming something else. That's what I believe is likely to happen, Sriji.
And that brings us to a close of today's DGI episode. Viewers, tomorrow we'll be back, but more importantly, on Saturday, Sridharji and I are going to talk about the new team of 7 of Xi Jinping. Certainly very, very concerning developments. And we're also going to talk about, the different groups inside CCP, how they've been fighting. By the way, if you have not watched the Elmer UN video, please do watch it, because after 2 hours of that video airing, there have been 3 or 4 videos on YouTube. They've all explained what Elmer said in the same exact fashion. In fact, to the person, everybody has accurately said that this is what happened. So we were, proudly, one of the first ones to say that this is really what happened, what Hu Jintao was trying to say when he was being booted out. Everything seems to be falling in place. But this Saturday event with Sridharji, where he has got a lot more information, is going to open your eyes. Don't miss it. Thank you once again, Sridharji, and namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, or have a wonderful day.